Every so often, I will take clips from the Bill O'Reilly show, even though I really can't stand him, and I think he's racist, and that's neither here nor there. Anyway, this evening he did a story that I thought had merit, and the people that he had on as guest commentators basically put up a good, shouldn't say defense, they put up good reasons and statements regarding the situation in Chicago. So I'm going to play the clip from the Bill O'Reilly show. And just starting off, as you see on the right, there's a picture of the gorilla that they killed in order to save that 4-year-old boy. And Bill is going to make a statement, which is true, that killing of that gorilla got a ton more coverage than the 68 people that were shot and 8 people killed in Chicago over this past weekend.
Impact segment tonight, there is no question that a 3-year-old boy falling into a gorilla cage leading to the animal being shot to death is a major story. But is it more important than 69 people being shot in Chicago over the same period of time? Apparently so, as the network news gave the gorilla story 54 times more play than the Chicago story.
Police say they will question the parents of a boy who fell into a gorilla enclosure at the Cincinnati Zoo.
After 10 minutes with the boy inside that exhibit, zoo workers say they had no other choice but to kill the gorilla to save the boy.
Joining us now from Chicago, Hermine Hartman, publisher of Indigo magazine, and Matt McGill, radio talk show guy on WVON. Matt, we'll begin with you. This violence in Chicago seems never ending. Why can't the authorities there stop it?
But you know what? I think the easy answer is you got too many guns on the street. And I don't know that any police department can handle it. There's just too much going on. The will to commit crime, to shoot, to use guns is greater than the ability to cover it.
But then how could that be possible, though, in New York City, which is 4 times the size of Chicago, and Los Angeles, bigger than Chicago, other cities around the country, have nearly this kind of a problem. So if the authorities can't control it in Chicago, but they can in New York and LA to some extent, what's the difference?
Well, in Chicago, it's the history of the city and segregation. Housing, redlining that has separated black people from other communities. It's been easier to chunk off resources from one community and make that community more violent. I think when you look at the dynamics in other major cities, they're different from Chicago.
Oh, there's no doubt that they're different. But the problem, Ms. Hartman, is the same. Stopping violence in the street. Here in New York, Giuliani did it. In Los Angeles, Bratton did it to some extent when he was police commissioner out there.
Let me stop him right there. Okay. Number one, Bratton didn't do it in Los Angeles. Okay, and for those of you who want a little history lesson, things were going crazy while Bratton was out there. The person that actually not necessarily shut down the violence, but helped to cause the amount of violence to be rapidly reduced was Jim Brown. I believe it was approximately 10 years ago, and the drive-by shootings in both the black and Hispanic communities was like ridiculous. And what happened was Jim Brown basically called all of the gang leaders together at his house out in Los Angeles. And he had them declare a truce. Now, like all truces, there were various shootings or whatever, random shootings, but the truce for the most part worked then and it's continued to work now. Yeah, every so often you'll hear a little, little something about somebody shot here or there, but for the most part, all of the huge number of shootings that was taking place in Los Angeles dropped dramatically after he had called that particular meeting and a truce was declared amongst the gang members. Now, I don't know, I haven't been in Los Angeles in the last, I'll say 5 years. Actually more than that, probably 7. I've been going back and forth, but as far as actually jumping into the various communities, I haven't really been in there. But my understanding, because I still have family there, my understanding is that it's not anywhere near what the situation is in Chicago. And I did a video recently regarding those 68 people that were shot and the 8 people killed. And I went looking in various online sites to see what the shooting and death count was over the Memorial Day weekend in various cities. And there absolutely was nothing on Los Angeles. There was a little on New York, i.e. one person was killed, and I believe, I want to say 15 people were shot in New York. But other than that, I couldn't really find anything of consequence anywhere else. And I particularly looked at Baltimore, since the situation in Baltimore last year was like ridiculous. And this year, it's basically been very calm. Now, as far as New York is concerned, that's a whole different ball game. The gang-related shootings in New York, at one point, and this was a long time ago, was very high. But because of the change in the demographics and various other factors that I'm not going to go into, those numbers dropped dramatically. And it wasn't Giuliani, which Bill O'Reilly loves. It wasn't Giuliani that did it, because when the police went into the various neighborhoods, and now I'm not talking about Midtown Manhattan, because that was never the problem. I'm talking about going up into Harlem, out into the Bronx, and out into Brooklyn. There was a lot of stuff that was going on, but there seemed to be a lot better control of the situation by the communities themselves. So it wasn't Giuliani, because when the cops went into the Bronx, and I can speak about the Bronx, and they got heavy-handed, there was a response. And that response told them that as long as they were even-handed in their policing, that they would be able to go home to their families at night. But in the instances where they weren't even-handed, there were funerals for police officers that, let us just say, overstepped their bounds. All right, so now I'm going to continue this particular clip.
Chicago, they have not been able to stop violence in the streets.
We're not working together, Mr. O'Reilly. That's part of the problem. Everyone is working in silos. The police are working by themselves, the politicians are working by themselves, community organizations are working by themselves, and we keep working on negativity. What we have to do is work in another way. We've got to come to the table with solutions. We can't keep studying this problem and playing the blame game. Chicago right now is a prescription for failure. The city budget, the teachers union, we don't have a budget in the state of Illinois. You close the schools. There are no resources in these communities. The philanthropic community ignores the black community, and it goes on and on.
Isn't that, though, isn't that the duty of the leadership of the city and the state?
But it's all, the point,
I know,
Mr.
but
O'Reilly, is
what
when
I'm
you
trying to
say
say is
leadership,
this.
what leadership are you talking about?
I don't know.
That's my
I
point.
mean, here
It's
in New
all
York, we had a
leadership.
mayor by the name of Rudy Giuliani who took control of a city that was in chaos.
That's bullshit. Rudy Giuliani did not take control of a city that was in chaos. Rudy Giuliani basically flooded a whole bunch of cops down in Midtown Manhattan and on the West Side, where the, let us say, more well-to-do people lived, and he flooded the cops into the Times Square area basically shipped all the homeless people out. You won't find any homeless people in Times Square. And just made sure that the entertainment section of New York, which is Broadway, going anywhere up from like 34th Street to approximately 59th Street, Columbus Circle. He flooded that area with cops so that the crime levels went down because there were just too many cops around for people to do, the things that they were doing. So as far as Giuliani's concerned, that's where he flooded the cops. Every place else, once you got into the outlying boroughs, like in Queens, the Bronx, and Brooklyn, there was no flooding of cops there. Okay, that was the communities themselves took control of those situations, not Giuliani. So for him to say Giuliani did this and Giuliani did that, that's bullshit. Giuliani was a goddamn crook, and Giuliani was really responsible for a lot of the deaths in 9/11 because he gave a sweetheart contract for the walkie-talkie communications that the police and first responders used, and he knew damn well that that communication mode didn't work. But I digress. Let's go back to this. Every time he mentions Giuliani's a goddamn racist, and he pisses me off every time I hear his name.
People getting gunned down in the black neighborhoods, which we have here, just like you have, Mr. Miguel. And they came up with a solution which was based upon community policing and CompStat. All right? And that solved the problem to a major extent. In Chicago, you got a Democratic mayor, you got a Republican governor in Illinois, and these guys don't seem to have a clue, Mr. Miguel, or am I wrong?
It's not about the party.
I will agree to but hold on. I'll agree that political leadership and leadership in Chicago has not done a good enough job. Look, I'm black. I live in Chicago. This crime is happening in my community. We should be embarrassed as African Americans that we've got the type of crime going on in our community. Our young people are dying. Just over the last 24 hours, a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old have been shot and killed in Chicago.
Awesome.
What we have to do as a community is police our households first. There's a part of me that wants the police to do the job, Bill, but there's another part of me that is saying, wait a minute, guys, this can't happen on our watch.
But individual responsibility is very, very hard to impose. And I would like to see the communities, the neighborhoods in Chicago, police themselves to some extent, Ms. Hartman, wouldn't you?
That's exactly what he's saying. That's what he's saying, Mr. Rudd. We can't...
Exactly, that's just what he said. Bill wasn't listening.
Blaming this on the other guy. All hands need to be on deck. Parents need to be on deck. Teachers need to be on deck. The police department on deck. The politicians. And we all need to come together. You can't come up with
But somebody has to coordinate that. And
Somebody has to pull it together. You know who pulls that together in Chicago? It's a minister who pulls that together here. And to the point that Matt made earlier, the racism here, it's different than it is in New York.
Bingo! Bingo! Ding, 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 ding. She hit it on the head. The racism in Chicago is different than it is in New York, and it's different than it is in Los Angeles.
New York is not as prevalent as it is here. This is happening in certain communities. We are living in some war zones. And if you're living in a war zone, you've got to act like it's a war. And I say, bring in the National Guard to stabilize these communities.
I agree. The National Guard should stabilize the situation, and then everybody should get together.
Then you start working. There you go. Then you start working on solutions.
I gotta go, guys. I'm gonna make a visit to Chicago soon. I'm not gonna tell anybody. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, he's just gonna show up because if he announces when he's going to Chicago, they'll be looking for him. But anyway, the lady hit it on the head. The racism in Chicago is different than the racism in New York or Los Angeles. And I have stated this before. They brought the National Guard in, not necessarily to do anything but to establish a presence. They could cut this way down, and they know the neighborhoods where they would have to be stationed. Now, you got a lot of people that are going to scream blue murder about martial law, this, that, and the other, but hey, if martial law saves lives, again, if martial law saves lives, and they wouldn't declare martial law, but if the presence of the National Guard is able to save lives and cut these shootings down, then I'm sorry, but I'm all for it.